is Miss Jones. I teach elementary school math, and welcome to my channel, Miss Math Jones. Today we're going to be working on our third grade Eureka Module 4, Lesson 3 homework. The objective for the homework is to draw rows and columns, sounds like an array to me, to determine the area of a rectangle when given an incomplete array. Let's go ahead and get started. Number 1 says each square represents 1 square centimeter. Draw to find the number of rows and columns in each array. Match it to its completed array. Then fill in the blanks to make a true equation to find each array's area. So first, what we're going to be doing is labeling the length and the width of each one of these arrays, and we're going to fill in the blanks. Then at the end, we're going to match them. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with A. Let's go ahead and label our length. So let's start counting these square centimeter cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that our length is 6 centimeters. Now let's work on our width. We're going to use that same number 1 in that upper left-hand corner, but we're going to count straight across. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our width is also 6 centimeters. So our equation for the area for this particular array would be 6 centimeters times 6 centimeters. Now, if you know your 6 multiples, then you can quickly figure out your answer. If not, you could create a ratio table of 6's. And you can figure out that 6 times 6 is 36. All right, let's go ahead and look at our next array. Letter B. Now, I'm going to count on this side because the other side is incomplete, right? So we're going to look all the way to the right, and we'll start on the complete side, because just because that left side is incomplete doesn't mean that we can't figure out the length. We just have to look at the other side. So that's 1, 2, 3 centimeters. So the length is 3 centimeters. Now let's go ahead and count our centimeter squares for the width. So we're going to use that 1 at the corner, and we're just going to count straight across. Just count straight across. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our width is 8 centimeters. So our equation to figure out the area for this array would be 3 centimeters times 8 centimeters. 3 times 8. Well, you can go ahead and either create a 3 ratio table or an 8 ratio table. It will be quicker to do a 8 ratio table because then you'd only have to go to 3, right? Now, what is 3 times 8? Well, if you've already created your ratio table, or you know your multiples of 3, or you know your multiples of 8, then you know that 3 times 8 is 24. Now you may want to go ahead and pause your video and label the arrays for letter A and letter B, and go ahead and fill in those two equations. Remember, we're not going to draw the lines to match the arrays until the end. Now, let's look at C. All right, I have a length side that's complete and a width side at the bottom that's complete. So that's where I'm going to do my counting. Let's start off by counting our squares for our length. So we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that means my length is 3 centimeters. I'm going to use that same one down in the corner to count my squares for my width. Let's start. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that my width is 6 centimeters. Now let's go ahead and fill in the blanks and write this as our equation. So that is 3 centimeters times 6 centimeters. And if you've already created your ratio table of 3s or created your ratio table of 6s, then you know our answer. And what's 3 times 6? 18. 3 times 6 equals 18. All right, so letter C is complete. Let's go ahead and move on to letter D. Now we do have a complete length side and a complete width side. So that means that we can go ahead and figure it out. All right, so let's start with our length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that our length is 5 centimeters. And now for our width. Now we use that number 1 up there in that upper left-hand corner, and we just go straight across. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means our width is also 5 centimeters. So our equation for this particular array for our area is 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters. Now you can count by fives to figure this one out and just use your fingers, right? Hold up 5 fingers, count by fives, and we know that 5 times 5 is 25. Now let's move on to letter E. Letter E looks like it could be difficult, but it's not, because we see enough of our square units, right, that we can count them and make them out. But let's go ahead and get started so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, we're going to go ahead and do the length first. 1, 2. So our length is 2 centimeters. Now let's do our width. Using that square in the Upper left-hand corner, we're just going to go ahead and go across and use our little lines as a guide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our width is 8 centimeters, which means our equation is 2 centimeters times 8 centimeters. And we know that 2 times 8 is 16. All right, now you may want to go ahead and pause your video so that you can write everything down as far as labeling your arrays and writing your equations in the blanks. And again, remember, we're going to match the arrays that have the same area at the end. Okay, let's go ahead and look at F. And we're going to start with our length. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our length is 4 centimeters. Now we're going to go ahead and count the squares for our width, starting with that number 1 in the lower left-hand corner. So it's 1, 2, 3, which means our width is 3 centimeters. So our equation to find the area for this array is 4 centimeters times 3 centimeters equals 12 centimeters. All right, now we found the areas for all of our arrays. Now we're going to match the arrays that we found the areas for with the arrays that are on the other side of the page. Okay, so now we're going to match the arrays that we found the area for to the completed arrays on the other side of the page. Let's start with array A. Now, the length was 6 and the width was 6. And the equation for that array to find the area was 6 times 6 equals 36. So we're going to draw a line from array A to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th array on the other side of the paper. All right, so draw a line from array A to the 5th array. Okay, now let's look at array B. The length was 3 and the width was 8. And the equation was 3 times 8 equals 24, or 8 times 3 equals 24. And the array that matches that one is the very last one, or the 6th array. So we're going to draw a line from array B to the very last one on the other side of the paper. Now let's look at array C. The length was 3 and the width was 6. So our equation to find the area for array C was 3 times 6 equals 24. And we're going to draw a line from array C to the very first array on the other side of the paper. So make sure you go ahead and draw your line. I like to make my lines in different colors just so that I can see them, but if you want to do them all in one color or all in pencil, that's fine. Let's look at array D. The length for array D was 5 and the width was 5. And the equation for array D was 5 times 5 equals 25. And we're going to draw a line from array D to the second array on the other side of the paper. That's the array that it matches. Now let's look at letter E. The length was 2 and the width was 8. And the equation for array E was 2 times 8 equals 16. So the matching array for array E would be the third array on the other side of the paper. And finally, we have array F, which the length was 4 and the width was 3. And our equation for this array was 4 times 3 equals 12. And we're going to draw a line from array F to the last array standing on the other side of the page, which is the fourth one here. So this is how your lines should look, going from the incomplete arrays to the complete arrays. All the lengths and widths are listed. All the equations are listed. So you definitely want to pause your video to make sure that your paper looks like my screen. So go ahead and do that now. Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 says men skip counts by sixes to find the total square units in the rectangle below. She says there are 36 square units. Is she correct? Explain your answer. Well, I want to go ahead and start by counting the square units in the width. So I'm going to go across the bottom because I see that there are lines there and they're not quite complete squares, but I can tell where a square would be. So let's go ahead and do that first, since that seems to be the most difficult part of this particular square. All right, so let's start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now notice, even though those aren't complete squares there at the bottom, those lines show me where the squares would be. So I can still figure it out and count them. So that means that my width is 6 units. Okay, it's 6 units wide. Now let's go ahead and count our square units for the length. Okay, I'm going to start in the lower left-hand corner at that 1 and just go up while I'm counting. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 units long. Now, a square, all of the sides of a square are equal. So I know that this is a true square because that means that all 4 sides are equal. If the left side is 6 units, that means the right side is 6 units. If the bottom is 6 units, that means the top is 6 units, which means this is actually a correct and complete square. It is a square, not a rectangle, because all sides of a square are equal. All right, now I know that area equals length times width, which means my equation is going to be 6 times 6. And what is 6 times 6? Well, if you said 36, then you are absolutely correct. 6 times 6 equals 36. Now remember, men said that there are 36 square units in this square. So that means that men is correct. The square is 6 units long and 6 units wide. Area is length times width, and 6 times 6 equals 36. So you may want to go ahead and pause your video so that you can write all of this down, or if you have something written down, you can check to see if what you wrote matches what I have on my screen. Okay, let's take a look at number 3. It says the tub in Paige's room covers the tile floor as shown below. So that figure is a tub. And that tub is covering some tiles. Now the question asked, how many square tiles are on the floor, including the tiles under the tub? So it's not focusing, the question is not focusing on the tiles under the tub. They want to know how many tiles are on the whole floor. Whole floor. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by counting our tiles that make up our length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our floor is 9 tiles long, 9 units long. Now let's go ahead and count the tiles that make up our width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means that our floor is 10 units wide. Now, area is length times width, which means our equation would be 9 times 10. And this is an easy one. So you can hold up 9 fingers and count by tens. And you would get 90. 9 times 10 equals 90. So our area for the floor, including the tiles under the tub, is 90. Now you may want to go ahead and pause your video so that you can make sure that you have the correct information on your homework, or just to make sure you write everything down. There are 90 square tiles on the floor, including the tiles under the tub. Let's look at number 4. Number 4 says Frank sees a notebook on top of his chessboard. Why would a notebook be on top of a chessboard? Anywho, how many squares are covered by the notebook? Now, in the last question, they wanted to know about the whole floor, right? All of it. This time, they're only focused on what's under the notebook, what you can't really see. But the good thing is you can use the tiles around the notebook to help you figure out what's actually under the notebook. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our tiles on the side for the length. Okay, I'm going to start right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means that my side length, right, is 5 units. 5 units long. Now let's use the tiles across the top of the notebook to figure out our width. Okay, so I'm going to start right here at this corner, right? Start with 1, and let's count. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that the width of this notebook is 6 units. So it's 6 units wide. Now we do know that the formula for area is length times width. So that means that we're going to multiply 5 times 6. Now, if you know your fives, then you know the answer to that. But if not, you can hold up 6 fingers and count by fives. And that means that you should come to the answer of 5 times 6 is 30. So that means that to find the area covered by the notebook, in your description, you write, I noticed that the length of the notebook was 5 square units and the length was 6 square units. 5 times 6 equals 30. So the area covered by the notebook is 30 square units. Now you may want to go ahead and pause the video to make sure that you have your numbers written out as well as your complete sentences to write your answer in words. Make sure all that's written out on your homework. So make sure you can pause the video and do that now. Well, that was our last question, and lesson 3 homework is now complete. As always, I hope this video helped. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.